mom was always about honor, about responsibility. She used to say, you know, Joey, the greatest virtue of all is courage, because without courage you couldn't love with abandon. She'd talk about how that, you know, Joey, bravery resides in every heart, but someday it will be summoned. Be ready. Every time I look at this picture of my mom, she was, I think, 92 years old, and this was at Grant Park out in Chicago, the night that we were about to be announced as the President and Vice President of the United States. And we're backstage, and they said, and now the President and Vice President of the United States of America. And my mom had my hand, and she reached out and look at the look on Barack's face, and she grabbed his hand and said, come on, honey, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. That was my mom. The great benefit I had was all of my children got to know my mom really, really well. And even my grandchildren got to know my mom. An incredible lady. She was a quintessential lady.
Greetings and happy Mother's Day. So my mother, Shamala Gopalan, well, she had two goals in her life: to raise her two daughters and end breast cancer. She was a breast cancer researcher, and she worked very long hours in that lab. After school and on some weekends, my sister and I would walk 2 houses down to the home of Mrs. Regina Shelton. Miss Shelton was a second mother to us, and she was a lifeline for my mother. My mother would always talk about how, but for Miss Shelton, she could not have done the work that she did every day. And that is the story of American mothers. Mothers relying on one another. Mothers relying on their communities for childcare, for companionship, to help carry the load. Because indeed, it takes a village. And during the pandemic, too many working mothers have been forced out of the workforce. Too often because they did not have the support that they need, that they deserve. President Joe Biden and I are determined to change that. We have already cut taxes for families with children and made a historic investment to give families and child care providers some relief. And we are just getting started. With the American Jobs Plan, we will strengthen our care infrastructure, because care is a literal bridge to work for so many mothers. And with the American Families Plan, we will lower the cost of childcare, because we believe middle-class families should not have to pay more than 7% of their income on child care. You know, I can still remember my mother sitting at the kitchen table late at night, trying to make it all work. And somehow, she always found a way. This past year, I've met so many mothers like her. In fact, just this last month, I met Melissa Wesby. She tucks her 3 children into bed before they wake up. She leaves for work caring for COVID-19 patients as a nurse in Baltimore. And she talks about her husband and their partnership to make it all work. She loves her job, and she loves her family, and she is a hero. She deserves policies, and her family deserves policies that make it possible for her to work, that give her and her family peace of mind, that lighten their load, just like all mothers do. So the mothers, stepmothers, godmothers, grandmothers, and aunties, to all of you, I want you to know that the President and I have your back. Thank you for all that you do and for all that you are. And again, happy Mother's Day.
One of the things I think about, though, in the middle of this month of celebrating women is my mom, Frances Scott. I think to myself that had it not been for her sacrifice, her perseverance, her resilience, I would not be sitting here today. Well, yeah, thanks for being my role model for the last 55 years of my life, without question. I love a verse, Hebrews 11:1 says that faith is the substance of things hoped for. It's the evidence of things not seen. There's a lot of women out there who have hope for something that they have not seen, how would you encourage them to remain hopeful?
Well, the first thing I would tell them is never give up.
Never give up.
Never give up. And when you start hoping or believing for something, sometimes it takes a while, or I would like to say it's a process.
Yes.
that it will come to pass.
Yeah.
So it's a process.
So when I was nearly flunking out of school, you never gave up. Is that a good example?
That's a very good example. That's an excellent example, because I know what you had inside of you and what you were capable of doing.
Yes.
So therefore, I couldn't give up.
That's really good advice for folks who have not yet seen the manifestation of what they're looking for.
Yes.
Sometimes the longer it takes for the manifestation to come, the sweeter it is when
Yes.
you see it.
Yes, very true. Very true. Yes.
Another question for you is, obviously you're the strongest woman I know, and I thank God for that. Who's the strongest woman that you know?
The strongest woman I know is my mom, and she's deceased now.
Yes.
But she is, and still is to this day, the very strongest woman that I know.
How come?
Well, her faith,
Yeah.
her belief in me. Even when I was growing up, when you did something wrong, Mama never put you down. She always encouraged you. She motivated you. Mama was a praying woman, so yeah. She was the strongest woman I know of all the things that she went through and endured during her times.
1922,
1921.
rural South Carolina,
Yes.
black woman.
Yes.
What did grandmama have to overcome to be the woman that she became, to make the woman that you have become?
A lot of negative, a lot of prejudice. She wasn't a well-educated woman. She went to the 8th grade. She went to the 8th grade, so she wasn't well-educated. So just looking back, I never saw my mama complain about anything. And even though the struggles back then was totally different from what I came up in, and even this time, this era now, but I never heard them complain. She never complained. So to me, that made her strong. She was able to endure whatever came her way.
Yes.
And they were not rich people, they were very poor people, and they were very country people. So it's not like they were city people. They were very country, my mama had very little education, but you would think that she was highly educated, the way she carried herself, the way she spoke.
And she would walk more than a mile to work to clean houses as a maid,
Yes.
walk back, clean her house, feed her kids, and then at some point feed her grandkids.
Yes.
So she had this perseverance, this resiliency that was a part, or she was resilient as a part of who she was.
That's the part, yes.
And when I think back about that, those seem to be things that you have inherited, almost like it's in your DNA as well, that you're strong, you're a praying woman, you're resilient, and you never, ever give up. Can't give up.
Can't get
Good stuff.
impossible.
You started a foundation to try to help single moms. Tell me about what that foundation does and what it is and why you started it.
Being a single mom, very few people come along and praise you or tell you that you're doing a very good job. Being a single mom is hard because there's only just you.
Yes.
So my foundation is about raising up single moms. It is about financial literacy, because I think financial literacy is very important. Having children of myself, I didn't know much about finances.
Yes.
So I think that's very important. Empowering young girls, young ladies today. And of course, one of my biggest one is raising positive children in a very negative world today.
What advice would you give to women to encourage them?
The first advice I would give to women is stay focused. Don't give up. Even when you want to give up, don't give up. There are many times, when I wanted to give up, because it was very hard, because you don't know where your next meal gonna come from, putting gas in the car, how you gonna get to work. There are many times when I cried. There are many times when you just really wanted just to give up. But you couldn't give up. I couldn't give up because I had 2 young boys that was looking to me. So how could I give up? I couldn't give up.
So being a model for your kids to follow gave you a strength to endure another day?
My kids has always been my motivation, and to this day, they still are.
I know that I will spend the rest of my life thanking the good Lord for the grace that you placed in my heart, my mama, in my life, my mother. My hope is this, that we all will leave a legacy, footprints in the sand, based on the people who have influenced us. No one more powerful, more influential on earth than my mother, Frances.
Hello, everyone. On this Mother's Day, I send my gratitude and a special appreciation for moms, grandmoms, and mother figures throughout our country. I especially salute our moms in uniform, especially those who are away from their families in service to our country. As we move forward in this tumultuous time, it's important to recognize our heroes, our essential workers, our first responders, our healthcare providers, our teachers, the champions for our children, and others who make our lives possible. Because of all of you, Democrats won the Congress, won the White House, and in doing so, we can demonstrate that help is on the way. Because of you, help is on the way to crush the virus, and more to come. I especially want to recognize the accomplishment that the COVID package provided in cutting child poverty in half. And we're just getting started. More help is on the way. So on this day, we also remember our mothers, some who are not with us, who continue to be an inspiration to us. Happy Mother's Day, and God bless you.
My mama's from Waycross, Georgia. You know where that is? It's way across Georgia. She spent her teenage years, she's younger than my dad, picking somebody else's tobacco and somebody else's cotton. And I'm so proud to stand with you this afternoon because the 82-year-old woman who used to pick tobacco and cotton in Waycross gets to pick her youngest son to be the next United States Senator from the great state of Georgia.
Anytime I think about the one woman who's been the best inspiration to me, I have to think of my mother. She was a very smart, gracious, compassionate, and competitive person. And she taught me to love my family unconditionally. She taught me to have confidence. She taught me to read, and she taught me to pursue my passion. And so, you know, she's not with me now, but she'll always be with me. And I say thanks to my mom for being a great inspiration to me.
All righty. This is going to be awesome. Okay. During the COVID pandemic, I've been doing lots of work from home, like so many of you, and people are always commenting on the quilts that I have hanging in my house, as well as the beautiful quilts that I have hanging in my office. The quilt in my district office has gotten accolades for being the Zoom background you can't look away from, but it's not a Zoom background, it's a quilt that my mom made for me. So to talk about this today, I wanted to talk to the person who designed and made these quilts, my mom, Liz Porter. Hi, Mom.
Hi, how are you, Kate?
Just fine. I always feel very comforted in my offices because I have something that you made for me to celebrate my election and my being able to do this work in my offices.
You had called me and said, do you have any quilts, Mom, that are kind of modern looking, that have a lot of orange in? And I was just finishing the binding on this quilt. And I was like, oh, I hate to have it go away so soon, you know. But I immediately finished the binding, packed it up, and sent it to you. I just made another one, made it just a little bit different, and now I have one of my own.
You also made a quilt for me for my Washington, D.C. office. It's totally different. This one is blue and white. It's very traditional, where the other one is modern. It sort of fits the two parts of my job, being in these two different locations.
I called it Corona del Mar because I never know what to call things. And I thought, well, that's the name of a beach near where you live. So I thought that was kind of a fun name for it because I knew I was going to give it to you.
Do you remember this?
Oh my gosh, I think that was the very first quilt I made.
This is the very first Liz Porter quilt, and she made it for me. I just want to say to my siblings, I came first, and my mom made the very first quilt for me. Quilting for you has been a hobby. It's something you've done since I was a little girl, but then it became a business, and you were an entrepreneur.
With small children, I felt like nothing I did stayed done. Cooking didn't stay done. Picking up toys definitely didn't stay done. Changing diapers didn't stay done. When I sewed two pieces of fabric together, they stayed together unless I chose to take them apart.
One of the things I remember as a kid is getting to watch you succeed at your business and being really proud of watching your business grow. And I would go to sleep listening to the sound of the sewing machine, because you would be up late when it was finally quiet and you'd gotten us put to bed, and you'd be up late sewing.
And even when you were just a little girl, Katie, I think I bought you a toy sewing machine when you were like 3 or 4 years old. You cocked your head and sat at it just like I sit at my sewing machines.
I remember as a kid, people stopping us and saying, "Is that you, Liz Porter?" And I remember as a kid being like, "Oh my God, let's just go." And that same thing happens now to my kids when they're like, "Is it you, Congresswoman Porter?" And my kids are like, "Oh Mom, let's just leave." It's so boring for kids, but at the same time, you're proud because you know that your mom is helping people and teaching people, and that people want to talk to them. So everybody call your mother, chat with them. You'll enjoy it just as much as I have today talking to my mom.
Bye, Kate.
My mama's from Waycross, Georgia. You know where that is? It's way across Georgia. She spent her teenage years, she's younger than my dad, picking somebody else's tobacco and somebody else's cotton. And I'm so proud to stand with you this afternoon because the 82-year-old woman who used to pick tobacco and cotton in Waycross gets to pick her youngest son to be the next United States Senator from the great state of Georgia.
Happy Mother's Day, everyone. Our moms are our rocks, our heroes, and our best friends. They're our mentors, our biggest fans, our fiercest advocates. As kids, they set us on our path. And as we grow up, they walk with us through the lows and the highs. Every day, moms across LA do the impossible. And this past year of so much upheaval, they've somehow found the strength and the courage to do even more. Tragically, for too many of us, this is the first year marking Mother's Day without Mom. And we keep every grieving family across Los Angeles in our prayers today. To all the mothers and mother figures, those who are with us and those who are with us in spirit, thank you for your affection and for your strength. Thank you for your compassion and for your power. Thank you for filling our lives with joy, support, and unconditional love. And to my mother, thank you for making me who I am today. Happy Mother's Day.